Hello and welcome back to the Fireside Chat on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. I'm Jason Bahamundi, founder of Run Try Bike and the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to be doing a solo episode today, partly because I was inspired by Joey Metzger of the Running Behind podcast, who mentioned about a month or two ago that podcast hosts should do more solo episodes so that our audience gets to know us. And coincidentally, the timing couldn't have been better because I want and am starting something new. Before I get into some of the details, you can see me exhale or hear me exhale there. It's because it's kind of going to be a little bit vulnerable, a little bit revealing of me as an everyday athlete who has been doing this stuff for 19 years and wanting to share with you so you can avoid some of the pitfalls that I've gone through. But again, before I get into any of that stuff, let me start by asking you to subscribe, rate, review, and comment on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. We have great guests who come on this show. And the reason why they say yes is because of you, the audience. They're not coming to talk to me. They love getting comments that I share with them from our audience. Questions that you guys ask on YouTube get relayed to them. They love to hear it. And I'm not going to lie, it really helps us with the algorithm so we can continue to get more great guests. So please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. As a matter of fact, press pause. Go do that right now. Then come back and press play, and we'll get into what I alluded to at the beginning of this recording. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I am in I guess you would call it a hotel. I'm at a gatehouse at a chateau in Vevey, Switzerland, which is the campus of Pepperdine University here. Lori is getting her doctorate. This week has been a week for her to isolate, for the most part, herself in writing and finalizing her dissertation before she becomes Dr. Lori Hauk. And I couldn't be any more happy and prideful for her accomplishment. So as a matter of fact, go follow her at the CFO CPA. Tell her congratulations. She'll be defending on May 4th. So if you want to wait until that passes, feel free to do so. But I'm proud of her and I can't stop talking about it. On to why we're here today for this show. So about a week or so ago, I wrote a post about burning out because I see a lot of posts out here on the socials, as my friend Amanda Katz likes to say, on Beyonce's internet. I see a lot of posts. They are talking about feeling tired, feeling burned out, but not with those exact words in terms of burnout, but being tired. Seems like people aren't having as much fun with these sports as they should. And I'm not talking about the hard workout. I'm talking about just the volume. I'm talking about when people are skipping meals. I'm talking about a person who raced a marathon or something longer, or even shorter distances, a half marathon, and then jumping right back into training with no race coming up right away, type of stuff. And those are clear signs for me that burnout is looming. It's on the horizon, sort of like the Grim Reaper standing behind them. And they can't see it, but I can. And so I want to share my trip through this endurance sports journey, because I said I've been doing it for 19 years. I have gone through burnout. I've been on the edge of burnout, and I've avoided burnout. So I want to share this with everybody, because if you're not dealing with it today, you might be dealing with it tomorrow. So like I said, about a week ago, I shared a post about how alluding to this conversation about burnout, and I used the words riding the edge. And I haven't been able to get those thoughts or those words out of my mind, in that last week or so of riding the edge, because I realized that it's not just riding the edge when it comes to endurance sports, but it's riding the edge when it comes to life, right? You've got an important interview coming up and you're on the edge. You have an important presentation coming up and you're on the edge. You have your kids that you're trying to get to some sort of sporting practice or musical practice or some play practice or something of that nature while you're trying to do these other things and you're on the edge. Bills are coming due. In today's economy, people are getting laid off. I mean, we're almost always riding the edge. And so I realized that this is an important topic because burnout can appear not just in our endurance sports lives, but lives outside of swim, bike, and run as well. And one is going to impact the other. Sometimes when life feels hectic, we turn to our endurance sports and we overdo them. And so we get close to that burnout edge. And it's a way for us to take control. So I've got a series quasi planned, shall we say. I've been taking notes, coming up with some ideas for blog posts, maybe some short podcasts or some short videos that will live on YouTube only. I will put stuff up on our social platforms as well, of course. But I want to be able to put together this series in a way that you, the audience member, will consume it the best for you. So that means, like I said, blog posts, so the written word for those of you who prefer that, to some videos, to maybe short reels, to maybe some short captions on Instagram, just a variety of different things, because I know we all consume media and we learn in different ways, and I don't want to miss anybody's preference for how they consume media. So we'll be doing that, or I'll be doing that all along the way. I keep referring to we, and the reason I keep referring to we is because I'm going to ask members of our community questions and include their quotes/testimonials in these blog posts and these social media posts and videos that I plan on recording, so that you could see different athletes from different walks of life who are dealing or have dealt with burnout in various different phases of their endurance sports journey. Some people may be 1, 2, 3 years into this journey, and I've noticed and want to ask them questions. Some people might be a decade plus and may have had more than one bout, and I've had conversations with them. And so I'm going to try to include as many everyday athletes in this series that, again, is called Riding the Edge, and making sure that you guys get perspectives that are more than just my own. So with that being said, here are at least the first 4 topics that I have, or titles, I guess, really, for blog posts that I have written down so that you can be prepared for them to come out and read them on runtrimag.com. My goal is probably to start them on Wednesday, which I believe, if I'm doing my math correctly, is May 2nd or 3rd, or somewhere in that vicinity. No, it can't be the 3rd. Maybe May 5th. No, it's got to be before that. Anyway, doesn't matter. Just pay attention, subscribe, rate and review, like I said, and you'll see. You actually won't see that on the podcast, I guess. Just make sure you check out runtrimag.com and you're following the account on social media, because there will be references to the blog post there, and they'll be shared in stories on Instagram with links and whatnot. So the first title I wrote down was "How Close is Too Close?" So how close to the edge is too close? When can you see yourself getting closer to that edge? Sort of knowing what to look for when it comes to being on that edge, because it doesn't happen in one fell swoop. It's not like you wake up one day and you're like, "Oh, I'm burned out. Time to pause and recalibrate and reassess and gain some perspective." it's all the little small things that you're doing all along the way. And if I can give you some recollections of my past about how I realized, usually too late, that I had burned out, maybe it'll help you get to the decision that you're on the verge of burning out before you actually get there and help you. I know we always talk about, here's a great observation. There are lots of posts about people who are injured. I've read posts about people running marathons with stress fractures in their hips, people who have had, um, terribly sprained and strained ankles and hamstring pulls, and they just had to get that race in. And I don't know why. I don't live in their minds, but I don't know why they're afraid to take the injury seriously and back off and allow it to heal before going back out to train or race. Um, there is no race that's that important to risk your health. I'll be upfront and honest. And no, I don't care if it's the Boston Marathon or Kona or UTMB. If you are injured to the point of broken bones, torn muscles, um, these races are not that important because that injury is now going to last even longer. And so now you're entering that phase of identity loss that I know occurs when people aren't participating in sport. I've had those moments of who am I as a runner, a swimmer, a cyclist, because I've poured a lot of my identity and honestly value into those sports and our sports, that when they're gone, you ask questions like, who am I? And you start to take inventory of these of your life in those situations. And so no, like no sport, no event is worth you risking your health over. And there's no medal or buckle out there that's going to do that. Is it going to be easy to say no? Of course not. And I don't mean to profess or sound like it's easy to just walk away. I get it. I understand that it is really difficult to walk away from something that, one, you've invested in financially. You've also invested time, probably lots of time, and then your physical investment into it and your mental investment into it. I get it all. But ask yourself this question: is crossing that finish line for that one event going to be worth your health in terms of months on the sideline and potentially never being able to do it again? Because will you look at that medal and think to yourself, it was worth it? Or will you look at that medal and regret it and hate it and think to yourself, I shouldn't have done that. I could have come back another time. I did it once, I can do it again, type of thing. And so, how close is too close? Um, for me, there have been a couple of different moments along this journey of mine in the 19 years. Two of them I can point to specifically. One was 2019. I raced Rocky Raccoon 100 in February. I raced Western States in late June, early July. I don't remember the exact day. It was somewhere in that vicinity. And then Ironman Wisconsin was scheduled for late September. And I say scheduled because I didn't get out of the water. And I was burned out physically, mentally. And I remember saying to the masseuse before Ironman Wisconsin that I couldn't wait for this shit to be over. And that had been nothing I'd ever said up until that point. I had invested a lot of time and energy into these sports and I was loving them. I was loving the training, but it was way too much in one season to try to get two 100s and an Ironman in. And it happened by accident, in all honesty. I didn't know that I would get into Western States, and with the odds back then being what they were, today they're even worse odds to get in. I had registered for Rocky Raccoon and Ironman Wisconsin, and I had been doing that for 4 or 5 years. And so having a large spread between February and September was great. And then September to February to do the 100 again was great because I had more time since there was no more cycling for 5 or 6 hours or hour and a half pool swims to get in Ironman shape. So it worked out really well. And then when I got my name pulled in the lottery for Western States, all of a sudden there was a new 100 dropped in the middle of it. And it wasn't just the training for that, it was the travel to Auburn. It was the financial commitment to Western States. It was the financial commitment to the travel, and then having to travel to Wisconsin in September. A lot of stuff just stacked up, and I got burned out there. And so the first blog post is, recognizing how close you are to the edge, and I think that is a great way to kick off this series of riding the edge for all of us as athletes, because like I said, you may not be going through it right now, but I know with the Boston Marathon having happened, um, by the time this post comes out, essentially a week and a half prior. And then when this episode drops, the London Marathon will have just happened. And so if you're scrolling social media, what are you seeing? Medals upon medals, 6 stars from the world majors, all of these conversations as we are in the throes of spring racing season. And so qualifying for the Boston Marathon if you want, that type of thing. The races are starting to pick up. So you're seeing all of these things and you get excited. And trust me, I do too. And you start to think to yourself, man, I can't wait to do this event. I want to be a part of that. It looks amazing. And all the accolades and the kudos and the backslaps that are happening are out there. And I get invested in it too. I am a huge cheerleader for every post I can possibly clap for when people cross that finish line of these big events, and we see them constantly coming at us in our feeds. But I also know that there's a dark shadow lurking behind all of that excitement. And I want to make sure that you guys can recognize it through some of the stuff that I've been through and how I've been able to recognize when I'm close to the edge of burnout or exhaustion or just not giving a fuck anymore and being like, I'm done with training. I will come back tomorrow. Like, there are signs. And so I will be sharing those with you guys as part of that initial blog post, which, like I said, is going to be called How Close is Too Close. The second blog post, and I'm planning on doing these on a weekly basis, maybe 10 days, 7 to 10 days, depending on my inspiration, motivation, and enthusiasm for writing. Because here's the other thing. This series sounds fantastic on paper, but until I get into it and I start writing it, I really won't know what my feelings are behind all of this stuff. And like I said, burnout isn't just sport, it can be life. And so if I try stacking too many of these blog posts too soon, I personally might get burned out from the series itself and give you something less than what I really want to give you that I know will help you in the long run. And so I'm going to be very careful with the timing of these blog posts, because I think it's important that I also don't get burned out and not ride the edge of creating content, because that's a real thing too. I know my fellow content creators out there feel the pressure and feel the stress of getting something out there, and then feel the pressure and the stress of the performance, because a lot of us are looking for brand deals and brands are looking for audience, and what does that audience look like and how many numbers. Like I said, we're in Switzerland right now. It's been sort of a blessing and a curse at the same time to be essentially 9 hours time zone difference from Los Angeles, which is where we live. And it helps because I can't possibly keep up with social media in the way that I would if I was at home. Yet at the same time, trying to time out when content gets posted, and then you have poor performances and upfront. I've had 3 posts that I was excited about that haven't done as well as I expected them to. And so there's been that, what am I doing wrong? trying to work harder at it, trying to do more at it, that urge exists, which is where this second blog post called The Lie of More Miles comes into play. I know there are people that put up 100-mile running weeks, um, and other people see that and they think to themselves, I need to do that in order to get fitter, faster, stronger. And when I say miles, it could be yards in the pool as well if you're a triathlete, or if you are not, I shouldn't say just a swimmer, but if you're a swimmer and you don't participate in triathlon, the lie of more in this scenario, whether it's miles, kilometers, if you're outside of the United States using the metric system, or a swimmer going by yards and meters in the pool. This idea that if I do more, I'm going to get fitter, faster, and stronger. And that's just not true either. Especially if you're comparing it to somebody else, you got to do what's best for your body, but also best for you mentally, physically, and understanding what event you are training for, if you are training for an event at all. Strava can be a great tool, but it can also be a detriment to your training because the comparison game is live. There, you see people's performances straight up on their Tuesday morning run, on their Friday afternoon bike ride. And it's hard to not get caught up in it, and seeing what other people are doing and wondering, should I be doing more? This person is training for the same type of event that I'm training for at the same time of the year that I'm going to be performing. And they're already, for lack of a better phrase, doing a 6-hour bike ride, or they're already running 20 miles and I'm running 14 miles, or I'm riding for 3 hours. You're not in their body. You don't live their life. So you don't know how much time they have to participate in these training rides, swims, and runs, right? So you're comparing yourself to somebody who's not you. And that can be a detriment because you can start piling on the miles, and then your body can break down and you can risk that injury coming up. The lie of more miles also means maybe you're not getting enough rest. And now all of a sudden your body is breaking down, which then you mentally start to suffer. And all of a sudden the idea of going out to swim, bike, and run, what you would normally do. So if you were at 14 miles and this next long run calls for 16 miles, you might say to yourself, I'm out, not doing it. I don't want to do it. I'm too tired of doing it. And you start skipping all of these workouts. And then all of a sudden race day is here. And so the lie of more miles is really something that we all deal with at various times in our journeys through our endurance sports. And it's because of the comparison game. It's also because of the fear of failure when it comes to race day. I know we put a lot of stress and pressure on ourselves to perform on race day because, I'm going to be posting this to social media, or it's going to show up on Strava. And if I'm training for a 4.5-hour marathon and I run 4:40, people are not going to like me. People are not going to value me. I'm not worthy, right? Like all of these mindset and these thoughts ping around in our brains. And I'm here to tell you this. The vast majority of people don't give a shit about your performance time. The vast majority of people just want to root for you. Yes, there will be people out there who will tell you, well, if you're not running a marathon under 4 hours, or if you're not finishing an Ironman under 12 hours, or if you're not finishing a half marathon under 2 hours, you're not a real runner. You're not a real triathlete. Pardon me. Like, to those people, check yourself, man, because that is a lot of bullshit. That is seriously a lot of bullshit. If you're out there doing your thing and it takes you 5 hours to complete the marathon, you did the marathon. If it takes you 3 hours to do the half marathon, you did the half marathon. If you finish in 16:59 at an Ironman event, you are an Ironman. No different than the person who finished the Ironman in 8.5 hours, or the marathon in 3.5 hours, or the half marathon in 140. I'm here to tell you, look, I have finished an Ironman in under 12 hours. I have run a 4.5 hour marathon. I've also run a 3:31 marathon. I have run multiple half marathons under 2 hours. I've also run half marathons over 2 hours. Every one of those finishes was a finish. And guess what? Not only do I not remember the times of the vast majority of these finishes, but neither is the critic. They have no memory whatsoever of the times that you finished it. They have no clue what you did. So do not worry about them. Do not worry about your performance on race day because of a stranger. Focus on your goals, focus on getting there. And that starts with understanding what your body can tolerate. That starts with understanding how much time you actually have to train. That's with understanding financially what you can participate in. If running a marathon is not conducive with the balance in your checkbook because you have life to live, then don't register for the marathon. That's not going to make you any more of a runner if in comparison to running a half marathon. You're still a runner. Go the route of the half marathon, save your checkbook and the stress of having spent X hundreds of dollars on a marathon, and save the money and participate in the half marathon and enjoy that event. Live it up, celebrate it, dance it. It's the more miles thing has got to go. Here's the thing, right? Like, I know a lot of people have gotten into these sports because they saw Dave Goggins do something. I'm not a Dave Goggins fan. I don't hate Dave Goggins either. I ignore Dave Goggins. His mentality on always go hard just doesn't work for me. It's not something I'm interested in doing, and so I don't care. And my resume shows that you don't have to always go hard 24/7. You don't have to stay hard 24/7 to participate in these sports for a long ass time and accomplish some great things. Um, I'll pat myself on the back. I've won a 50-mile race once. I have finished top three, I think, at another 50-mile race. I finished second no, I finished third in that event. I think I finished third at another 50-mile trail event. I have won my age group at a 100-mile event, right? Like, I did the vast majority of that stuff without staying hard. And so I don't subscribe to his thinking. And a lot of that is because I don't want to burn out. I don't want to get injured. I want to enjoy these sports for the rest of my life. There was an 80-year-old, I think she's 82, who ran the Boston Marathon. And I see so many people saying how inspiring and motivating it is and how they want to do these sports just like her until their 80s. And yet they're doing the opposite stuff to get there into their 80s. And one of those things is piling on the miles. So honestly, if you feel like you can't control yourself, hire a coach. And look, I know not everybody can afford one. I just told you, don't do the marathon if you can't afford it. Look, if you can't afford a coach, don't go that route either. But if you can afford a coach, hire one. And then here's the key: listen to them, pay attention to them. I tell the athletes that I coach that your training peaks should look like a Christmas tree. There should be plenty of green in there because you've done the prescribed uh, training plan for the day. But there should be reds and there should be oranges in there too, because that tells me that you have a life. You were sick and didn't train. Things didn't feel right. And so you stopped before the completion of the event, because I'd rather you be healthy and let's make adjustments along the way to get you to your event healthy than you burning out before you get to the event and thinking to yourself, this sucks. I don't want to do this now. So that's going to be the second component of this Riding the Edge series. The third one, which is near and dear to my heart, and it's funny because last night I had a conversation with a person who isn't involved in endurance sports and expressed how I had a I guess, bigger, like, this never goes away. I have disordered eating, and, they were shocked to hear that from me, and I was explaining to them how difficult it was to talk about this topic because of, 1, not knowing I was even experiencing it and going through it until Lori pointed it out to me about 6 years ago, and then it took a long time because I was ashamed of it, and so, um, they were shocked to hear it from me, but it's one that I've come to be comfortable with, because I'm still dealing with it on a regular basis, right? It's not cured. It didn't just go away. There are moments, I posted about this before the Oakland Marathon, where I was eating tacos at a Hispanic restaurant, and I was looking at it and I was thinking, should I eat this last taco, or will it make me too heavy for this upcoming event? And so it's never really cured in that sense. I've just learned to recognize the thoughts and the feelings and address them in the moment as opposed to letting them linger or letting them get the best of me. So yes, I did eat that taco, and yes, I had a great marathon, in terms of my enjoyment and the fulfillment of my love for running at the Oakland Marathon. Um, but yeah, so the post, tentative title is "Fueling the Fire" or "Burning Out," because I know that, and I know you know this too, because a lot of people recognize the word hangry, right? Take that as a small microcosm of disordered eating and underfueling, right? Even Snickers, "You're not you when you're hungry," is on board with this stuff. They're telling us that we change when we are hungry. And so think about that in the grand scheme of things when it comes to endurance sports. You're out there for hours on end. If you're an Ironman triathlete, or you're training for an Ironman for that matter, you're putting in 15 to 20 hours. You have a part time job when it comes to training for that sport. And if you're not fueling yourself, A, you're not going to get through the workouts as efficiently as you could. But B, your demeanor is going to be different than if you had fueled. And so we can't be afraid of putting calories in. And I will tell you one of the ways I noticed when I started to increase my calorie intake during training for um, races about a year or so ago. I was intent on getting in somewhere between 400 and 500 calories an hour. And when I started practicing and started increasing my calorie intake, the times at lunch that Lori and I would go after the training, all of a sudden I wasn't like just inhaling food, which told me that I was under fueling. Like the sign was obvious when I was getting in 150 to 200 calories, maybe even less. We would go to lunch and it was like a Dyson vacuum of the food because my body needed the calories. But once I started eating or taking in, because sometimes it was through liquid hydration and nutrition, like Tailwind has 200 calories per sachet packet. I meant to say sachet, but I don't think that's the right thing. I think it's packet. um, Using energy chews from Bonk Breaker and Salt Stick, as well as from scratch, and taking in Seven Summits bars and taking in Goo Energy and Spring Energy gels. When I would go to lunch, I wasn't hangry. I wasn't foggy brained. I was normal in a sense, right? And that was a big key for me to understanding, man, you got to fuel more. Like you thought you were fueling prior, but you weren't fueling enough. And lo and behold, performance improved to the point where I wasn't exhausted after the run. I didn't need that power nap, but I also recognized that my recovery was much faster. My muscles weren't as sore. I was feeding them the macronutrients that they needed to get prepared for the next day. And super important to make sure you're fueling properly. And so That's going to be part 3. Right now, I have 4 parts. It might continue on, especially if the reaction from you guys in the audience are like, tell me more. But part 3, fueling the fire or burning out. Then part 4, rest is not a weakness. As a matter of fact, right before I came in here to film this podcast episode, I took a nap. I was exhausted, plain and simple. I was really tired. So I took a nap so that I can feel better, so that I can go out and take on the day. And I feel much better. I I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why we think it is a badge of honor to say, well, I can survive on 4 hours sleep. No, no, you cannot. You might be going through the motions, but you're not peak. You're not being the most efficient. Trust me, you know, people say, oh, I can't get to 8 hours. Cool. But don't sleep for 4 and think that you're getting enough rest. The flex is I got 7 hours in. The flex is I took a nap. The flex is not I slept 4 hours and went on a 6-hour bike ride and a 2-hour run after that. And that's not the flex at all. Rest is not a weakness. If your body isn't feeling it and you're too tired to go out for a run, 10K run, 6.2 miles that you normally knock out with no problems, get that rest, right? Why struggle through that 10K run? I'm just using 10K as an example. Why struggle through that training scenario there when you could rest and actually go back out the next day and be on top of the world when it comes to that run? So rest is not a weakness. I'm going to be talking about this because I am a huge believer in paying attention to the signs. And look, if you're just getting into this, you don't have an idea of what those signs are. So talk to people who've been in these sports for longer than you have. I'm happy to chat with anybody about this stuff because I've been doing it for 19, 20 years. And I tell this often. In the 19 to 20 years that I've been doing this stuff, one injury, literally one, and it lasted about 6 days. And here's the thing, it's the lie of more miles, the lie of proving to somebody else and others, I should say, that I'm a badass. I had completed a race. Black Canyon 100K was on the horizon. And instead of taking it easy, I went out too hard. And I was running my ass off. And I thought I was having a blast because look at me running fast instead of understanding where I was in this training cycle. And I felt something in my calf. And I immediately stopped because Black Canyon was, I think, 2 weeks away at that point. Maybe 3 at the most. And I was like, I'm not going to risk injury. I want to run a sub 12-hour Black Canyon 100K. This is the main goal. I am fixated on this. And so I stopped. And I will tell you what happened over those 6 days. 0 running on day 1. 0 running on day 2. On day 3, a mile or 2. On day 4, 2 to 3. On day 5, 3 to 4. And then on day 6, 5 to 6. And I tempered the mileage because the lie of more miles existed, but I rested. I took it easy. The calf felt okay, but I rested because I didn't want to push it and risk the big event. And so I took out the scraping tools. I took out the CBD balm, rubbed it on there, stayed off of it, stretched the calf, pulled the calf, worked the calf, the small exercises, the rehab exercises, to make sure that the calf was ready. And I didn't go and say to myself, oh, I feel ready to run and start running long miles, right? Lots of miles, 1 to 2 miles. How does this feel? Is the pain where it existed to begin with still there? If it is, at what level? Is it a 9 out of 10? Is it a 2 out of 10? Like seriously taking inventory, not giving a shit that the mile that I was running, where I would normally run 9 minutes, was taking me 14 because I was paying attention. I didn't want to get too deep into it. Okay, I survived that. The pain didn't increase. Nothing else happened there. Okay, 2 to 3 miles. Again, not giving a shit what Strava says to the world for that matter, right? focusing on that, taking the rest that I needed to allow that muscle to rehab and get stronger and heal, so that when the goal race for that training cycle came up, I could execute. And execute I did. I did go under 12 hours. Now imagine if I didn't allow that calf to heal and I ended up going 13 hours, 14 hours, or not even being able to participate. How would I have felt? Would I have been like, look at me though, for the second day after having a strained calf, I went out and ran 10 miles? Or is it a better story to say I had a 12-hour goal at Black Canyon and I completed that goal and accomplished that goal, right? See, like we worry about that in the moment instead of recognizing what the larger picture is. And so, no, rest is not a weakness. It helps you build strength. It allows your body to repair itself so that you can get out there and do the thing. So trust me when I tell you, rest is not a weakness. So those are the 4 parts that I have plotted out at this point. Hopefully over the course of a month, maybe 5 or 6 weeks, I'll get this entire series out. If you're listening to this and you have a topic that you would like me to cover, maybe it's cross training, maybe it's strength training on that kind of stuff, on riding the edge and how that is a part of it all, let me know. Drop it in the comments. If you're on YouTube or Spotify, if you see the reel that gets posted on Instagram where I promote the series or this particular episode of the Fireside Chat, DM me there as well. DM me on Threads. I'm happy to take sort of requests from you guys about what you want to talk about. If you want to be included with a quote about any of these 4 topics or another one that I can expand upon, let me know as well. I am an N=1, and I'm going to give you my experience and my perspective. But if others have experience, perspective that they're willing to share, I'm willing to put it out there with my story too. So drop it in there. Let me know. I'm happy to have that conversation with you. I think it's important that we all share these stories, be open, honest, and vulnerable. We talk about it on our Enduring Minds podcast all the time, but be open, honest, and vulnerable in these scenarios so that we can touch people where they are at, right? I use this phrase often. I'm not for everybody and everybody's not for me. And so somebody may not resonate with me telling them a story about a calf strain or me telling them a story of pushing the line when it comes to 3 long races in a season, but they might resonate with you and your story because you're not a male, you're Puerto Rican, you might be a Black female, you might be an Asian male, you might be non-binary, you might be from Wisconsin, you might be from Los Angeles, right? Like we all have different stories because we all come from different areas and backgrounds, and they might resonate with you. So if you want to share that, let me know, and we'll figure out a way to get your testimonial or your quote into one of these blog posts or part of the captions on our posts that I share on our social media pages. I appreciate you hanging around for about 45 minutes today. Joey Metzger, thank you so much for pushing us to do solo podcast episodes. I appreciate it. I've actually put calendars set aside for Fireside Chat for me to do these once every 2 to 3 months, because I think you're right about sharing our stories with our audience so they can connect with us and understand where the questions we are asking come from when we have guests on. So thank you so much for doing that. For those of you, again, who have listened, thank you for doing so. Please subscribe, rate, review, and comment on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. It has grown like wildfire for us. I didn't expect this podcast network to be what it is, but there are somewhere over 400 of you that are following us, and yet there are only 82 ratings. Where are the other 340 of you? Drop those in, please, and comment. Drop those comments in there. Let us know. Sometimes it feels like we're speaking into the void, so we appreciate it when you comment on our episodes. And I know that the guests, when we have them on and we share those comments with them, love to see them. And I've seen guests interact with the people who are commenting, which is really cool. So I appreciate you. The next episode will be coming out 1 week from today. When you're hearing this, and our guest for that particular fireside chat is going to be Liz Myers, who is a perfect follow-up to this series because I know she had gone away from social and her podcast for a little while as Life Lifed. And so it'll be a great follow-up to have her as a guest on the next fireside chat. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. I close out every fireside chat with this statement. Time is the greatest gift that we can give to each other, and you gave me the gift of your time. So thank you very much. And we'll see you next week with guest Liz Myers on the Fireside Chat on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. Have a great one, everybody.